Have you ever walked away from a conversation with someone you deeply care about, like maybe a partner or a parent or a close friend, and you just feel completely out of your mind?
Oh, yeah. That is a very specific and awful feeling.
Right. Like you went into the discussion knowing exactly what happened, you had your facts straight, you knew you were in the right, but somehow 20 minutes later, you're the one apologizing.
Exactly. You're doing the apologizing for something they did.
Yeah. You're suddenly questioning your own memory, wondering if you're just, being too sensitive. And you get this heavy, sinking feeling in your gut that something just isn't right, even if you can't really put it into words.
Which is, that's incredibly common.
So today, we're exploring the invisible architecture behind that exact feeling. We are taking a deep dive into the hidden mechanics of emotional manipulation and dark psychology.
It is a really profound and honestly unsettling topic to untangle, primarily because the forces that manipulate us are designed to be invisible.
Invisible, right?
Yeah, like when someone physically crosses a line, your brain immediately registers the threat. But emotional manipulation operates in the blind spots of human cognition.
It's sneaky.
Very. There are no physical bruises. There's no alarm bells. The most effective manipulation actually uses your own empathy and biology against you, which makes it incredibly difficult to identify when you're standing right in the eye of the storm.
So to give you all the ultimate psychological toolkit today, we aren't just looking at one single perspective. We are synthesizing a lot of clinical research. We've got a really comprehensive master's thesis out of the City University of New York, CUNY, and romantic manipulation.
That one is fascinating.
It really is. And we're looking at that alongside insights from Healthline on toxic family dynamics. But we're also pushing beyond just psychology into evolutionary biology.
Right, the biology piece is wild.
Yeah, we're pulling from a peer-reviewed study in Frontiers in Psychology and cross-referencing all of this with crowd-sourced viral behavior patterns we found on the social media platform Lemonade.
It's a great stack of sources.
So the mission today is simple. We are going to decode the tactics used against you, explain why your brain is literally wired to fall for them, uncover why evolution hasn't wiped these dark traits out of the gene pool, and finally, show you how to build an armor of boundaries.
And, understanding the mechanics of control is really the only way to reclaim your autonomy.
Absolutely.
But to do that, we first have to define the weapons that are being deployed, often right across the dinner table or, on a casual first date.
Yeah, let's start there.
So the CUNY research points to a very specific, highly engineered starting point for most manipulative dynamics. It's a concept called love bombing.
Now, I always thought love bombing was just, someone being overly enthusiastic, maybe a little clingy at first.
That's a common misconception, yeah.
But the research paints a much darker picture. It isn't just someone being nice. It's a highly compressed, rapid-fire affection that mimics a healthy, deeply romantic relationship, but it moves at a completely dizzying speed.
The speed is literally the weapon.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Love bombing is essentially an emotional hostile takeover. The manipulator is artificially flooding your brain with dopamine and oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone.
Okay, so it's chemical.
Exactly. They are setting a fabricated baseline. They create this highly idealized version of themselves in your mind. And that's crucial because once that intense emotional tether is established, your defenses are completely lowered.
And that's when they switch it up.
Right. The manipulator can begin to slowly introduce destructive tactics. And you tolerate it because you're constantly trying to get back to that initial intoxicating high of the love bombing phase.
Okay, let's unpack this because once that baseline is set, we see the introduction of a term that honestly gets thrown around a lot these days, gaslighting.
It definitely gets overused.
Yeah. I used to think gaslighting just meant someone lying to cover their tracks. But the sources frame it as something way more structural and insidious than just telling a lie.
Well, lying is just hiding a fact. Gaslighting is the systematic distortion of your subjective reality.
Systematic.
Right? It's a slow drip of denial, reframing, and dismissal designed to erode your trust in your own cognitive faculties. The abuser challenges your memory events or tells you your emotional reactions are entirely irrational.
There was a chillingly specific example in that CUNY research. A participant described the sheer absurdity of their reality being warped, saying they were blamed for literally everything that went wrong in the house.
Oh, the microwave.
Yeah, the specific quote was, "The microwave broke and somehow it was my fault."
Which is wild.
Right. I'm struggling with that, though. Why would someone go through the effort of manipulating an argument over a broken microwave. Like, what does the abuser actually gain from that?
It isn't about the microwave at all.
Okay.
It's about cognitive dominance. The shifting of blame from the abuser's lack of control in their own life onto the victim's supposed incompetence,
Yeah.
it strips the victim of their agency.
So it breaks them down.
Exactly. When you are constantly told that up is down, your brain experiences severe mental discomfort.
Hmm.
And to resolve that discomfort, the victim slowly starts adopting the manipulator's version of reality.
They start telling themselves, maybe I am too sensitive, or maybe I did break it.
Right, I'm crazy.
Mm.
The victim becomes unknowingly complicit in their own psychological unraveling.
That is terrifying. You don't realize you're using their map of reality until your own compass is completely broken.
Perfectly said.
But I want to bring up something from the CUNY thesis that completely caught me off guard. Because we tend to picture a manipulator as this cartoon villain rubbing their hands together, actively plotting to destroy us.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is that the clinical data strongly suggest that a vast amount of this manipulation is entirely unintentional.
Really, like they don't even know they're doing it.
Many manipulators are operating completely subconsciously. They are using emotional manipulation as a deeply ingrained, maladaptive defense mechanism.
Wow.
It often stems from their own profound emotional immaturity, or a severe fear of abandonment, or just an inability to regulate shame.
So when the microwave breaks,
They feel a subconscious surge of inadequacy, and their immediate defense is to project that reality-warping blame onto you, just to protect their own fragile ego.
so they might not even realize they're doing it, but the impact on the victim is identical. I mean, a car crash still breaks your bones whether the driver meant to hit you or not.
Exactly. The bruises on the psyche are the same.
This leads right into a tactic from the Healthline article discussing toxic family systems. They call it shifting the goalposts.
Oh, that is an incredibly common dynamic, particularly between parents and children or in high-control relationships. It's the act of constantly arbitrarily changing the criteria for success or approval so that the victim can never actually achieve it.
It's like playing a rigged carnival game. Say you really want to go on a summer trip, and your parents say, do all the household chores for a month and we'll pay for the ticket. So you spend your entire spring break cleaning the gutters, scrubbing floors, playing exactly by their rule.
Doing everything right.
Right. Then you go to collect your prize, and suddenly they say, well, your GPA is only a 3.0. Why should we pay for you to go party? Fix your grades first.
The target just moved.
Yeah. You can never win the giant stuffed bear because the rules are an illusion designed to keep you striving for an approval that doesn't actually exist.
It's exhausting.
But this is what I don't get. If these tactics are so obviously unfair and exhausting, why do smart, capable people still fall for them? Why do we stay in the carnival?
Well, to answer that, we have to look under the hood at the neurobiology of the brain on manipulation.
Okay.
Why we stay isn't a matter of weak willpower. It is deeply rooted in our behavioral conditioning. The CUNY research points heavily to a mechanism called intermittent reinforcement.
That sounds like playing a slot machine.
It is exactly like a slot machine.
Because, like, if the slot machine just took your quarter every single time without fail, you'd walk away after 5 minutes. You'd realize it's a scam.
Right.
But because it pays out unpredictably, a few coins here, some flashing lights there, you keep pulling the lever.
The slot machine analogy is actually the perfect neurological model for a trauma bond. Your brain becomes chemically hooked on a very specific cycle.
How does that work?
When the abuser is cruel or withholding, your brain is flooded with cortisol, the primary stress hormone. You feel anxious, panicked, desperate to fix it.
Right, you're on edge.
Then, unpredictably, they show you a flash of that original love-bombing affection.
Right.
When that happens, the cortisol drops, and your brain is flooded with a massive rush of dopamine.
Oh, wow.
You aren't just addicted to the person. You are chemically addicted to the intense relief from the stress that they themselves caused.
So you're basically going through literal chemical withdrawals when they give you the silent treatment.
Yes,
Yeah.
and compounding this chemical addiction is a foundational function of human cognition known as predictive error minimization.
Predictive error minimization. That sounds like a line of code in a software program.
It kind of is. The human brain essentially operates like a predictive software engine. Its primary directive is to predict what happens next in order to keep you safe.
Okay, that makes sense.
From an evolutionary standpoint, surprise equals danger. Your brain desperately wants the world to make sense based on the established narratives it has already accepted.
So if the abuser established early on that they're a loving, wonderful partner, Your brain encodes that as the baseline reality.
Exactly.
So when they suddenly lash out and call you worthless, it creates an error code in the system.
A massive contradiction. The reality of the abuse clashes violently with the programmed narrative of love,
Mhm.
and the brain absolutely hates cognitive dissonance. It cannot function in that state of contradiction.
So what does it do?
It scrambles to minimize that predictive error, instead of accepting the terrifying system-crashing reality that the person you sleep next to is actually dangerous.
Right.
The brain rationalizes the abuse to maintain harmony, and the most efficient way to maintain the narrative that your partner is good is to decide that you are bad.
Oh my gosh. The brain literally tricks itself into taking the blame just to keep the peace and avoid a system crash.
It's self-preservation gone wrong.
That is unbelievable, and it perfectly explains a major finding in that CUNY educational intervention study. They brought people in and tested them, and found that participants scored incredibly high on the conceptual knowledge of manipulation.
Right, they knew the definitions.
Yeah, they could define the terms on paper, but they scored shockingly low on actually recognizing it when watching real-world video vignettes.
And this raises an important question, right? Why is there such a massive gap between knowing a psychological buzzword and actually recognizing the behavior in real time?
Which Lemonade talks about a lot.
Exactly. We see this discussed heavily in the Lemonade sources. Social media has popularized terms like gaslighting and narcissism to the point of saturation. But memorizing a dictionary definition does not prepare your nervous system for the emotional fog of being inside the dynamic.
Because your brain is glitching.
Yeah, when it's happening to you, that predictive error minimization and that dopamine addiction completely hijack your logical processing.
And the Lemonade sources brought up a concept that ties directly into this mental fog. They call it the shadow mind.
Oh, this is a very interesting concept.
It's the idea that our brains contain this deep repository of suppressed fears, childhood insecurities, and inner criticisms. And occasionally, these suppressed feelings surface as alien thoughts, random dark thoughts of self-doubt that feel like they don't quite belong to us.
Like internal noise.
Right. And if your brain is already generating that kind of internal noise on its own, it makes it incredibly easy for an external manipulator to tap into it. A gaslighter doesn't have to invent a new insecurity. They just have to agree with the inner critic you already have.
The manipulator is simply weaponizing your pre-existing internal vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
But, looking at all of this destruction, the trauma bonds, the shattered realities, the emotional exhaustion, it leads us to a broader, almost philosophical problem.
Which is,
If these manipulative traits cause so much psychological and social devastation, why do they still exist?
oh, wait, I'm genuinely struggling with this too, because natural selection is supposed to weed out behaviors that harm the tribe, right?
That's the standard theory, yes.
If these traits destroy relationships and fracture communities, how on earth hasn't human evolution bred them out of the gene pool by now? That makes zero biological sense.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the Frontiers in Psychology study looks at exactly this paradox.
Okay, let's get into it.
They examined what psychologists call the dark tetrad of personality traits. That's Machiavellianism, narcissism, psychopathy, and sadism. They conducted a massive study of 690 Croatian citizens looking at fertility, specifically the number of children and the age of first reproduction, as a hard metric of evolutionary adaptiveness.
That is a brilliantly objective way to measure success, because in purely evolutionary terms, success doesn't mean being a good person. It simply means surviving long enough to pass on your genes.
Exactly. And the Croatian study revealed a stark, deeply disturbing contrast. They found that psychopathy actually positively predicted the number of children a person had.
Wait, what?
Yeah, and it was strongly linked to an earlier age of first reproduction.
So biology is actively rewarding psychopathic traits.
In a very specific, short-term way, yes. The researchers describe psychopathy in this context as an evolutionary fast life history strategy.
A fast life history strategy, what does that mean in practice?
Well, individuals with these traits utilize deceit, superficial charm, and interpersonal manipulation to extract immediate resources and gain rapid reproductive advantages.
Oh, I see.
Their distinct lack of anxiety, empathy, and guilt allows them to move quickly from partner to partner, outcompeting others who are bogged down by the slow, emotionally heavy work of building long-term, stable pair bonds.
Wow. But the study found the exact opposite for sadism, right? Sadism being the trait where a person derives actual psychological or physical pleasure from inflicting pain or harm.
That is the dividing line. Sadism showed a negative correlation. fewer children, and significantly later reproduction.
So it's not successful.
No, in the grand scheme of human evolution, sadism appears to be a biological dead end. It's a maladaptive, deeply dysregulated form of aggression that serves no functional purpose.
Because they're just too toxic.
Pretty much. A sadist's behavior makes them too overtly dangerous to maintain even the short-term alliances necessary to reproduce.
You know, the study mentions there's an ongoing debate in the scientific community where some psychologists argue that psychopathy and sadism are redundant, that they are essentially just two different labels for the exact same underlying dark personality core.
There's that debate, yeah.
But doesn't this fertility data completely shatter that argument?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it absolutely dismantles the redundancy argument.
Because natural selection is treating them differently.
Exactly. Natural selection is the ultimate judge, and it's treating these two traits completely differently. Psychopathy is being selected for, or at least tolerated by evolution, as a successful fast-life reproductive strategy.
While sadism is getting filtered out.
Right. Sadism is being actively selected against. It proves on a biological level that they are distinct behavioral phenomena with entirely different evolutionary trajectories.
It is so chilling to think that manipulative charm and deceit are literally baked into human biology because they worked for our ancestors.
It's a tough pill to swallow.
But it isn't just ancient biology, is it?
Yeah.
Our current culture, our society, and even the trauma passed down through our immediate families play a massive role in why we tolerate this.
Oh, they completely lay the groundwork.
Oh.
The CNY thesis explores this societal imprint heavily. We are conditioned from childhood to accept certain manipulative dynamics as not just normal, but expected.
Right.
Consider traditional gender socialization.
Right.
Men are frequently socialized toward emotional suppression and dominance, which can easily manifest later in life as avoidance-based manipulation like the silent treatment.
And women.
Women, conversely, are heavily socialized to be endlessly accommodating,
Yeah.
to be the unconditional fixers of broken people.
And our media completely romanticizes this. We see countless movies and shows where toxic jealousy, volatile possessiveness, and emotional instability are framed as passion.
Oh, all the time.
We are taught the narrative that if you just love the bad boy enough, your pure devotion will magically cure his toxicity. It primes you to accept abuse not as a red flag, but as a project you are meant to manage.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, but the Lemonade sources took this concept of a generational imprint a massive step further, moving out of culture and into the realm of actual physical DNA.
Yes, the Lemonade community discussions frequently touch on the emerging science of epigenetics.
Right, epigenetics.
This is the understanding that extreme emotional trauma doesn't just live in your memories. It can chemically alter the way your DNA expresses itself. They refer to these as ghost codes.
Ghost codes.
Right. It means that the severe stress, the high cortisol levels, and the emotional manipulation experienced by your parents or even your grandparents can physically alter their gene expression.
Wait, let me make sure I understand this. You're saying that if my grandfather was subjected to severe emotional abuse, his body's chemical reaction to that stress could actually change the on and off switches of his DNA, and he could pass those modified switches down to me.
That is precisely the mechanism, yes.
Wow.
You might be born with a hyperactive nervous system, one that is completely primed to expect emotional volatility and manipulation simply because of the environment your ancestors had to survive.
You inherit the physiological expectation of abuse.
Yes. Your baseline for stress is altered before you even have your first interaction.
So what does this all mean? If I pull all these threads together, our cultural narratives, our romanticized media, and our actual physical genetic code act like a preloaded operating system on a computer.
That's a great way to look at it.
We are born into a body and a society that are pre-programmed to accept emotional manipulation as normal, familiar, maybe even chemically comfortable. So how do we rewrite the code? Like, how do we defend ourselves when our own biology is working against us?
Well, that brings us to the most vital part of our mission today, building a defense playbook.
Let's do it.
Now that you understand the mechanics, you can disrupt the pattern. The Healthline article offers incredibly practical response tactics.
What's the first step?
The absolute first step when dealing with a manipulator is to bring the behavior out of the shadows. But you have to do it systematically. You use I statements to bypass their defensive reflexes.
Right, because if I say, you are a manipulative liar, their amygdala fires up, they go on the attack, and suddenly we are arguing about my tone instead of their lie. So instead, I say something like, when you lie to get my help, I lose trust in you.
Spot on. You move entirely away from accusations about their character and you move towards stating unarguable, objective facts about your own internal state.
They can't debate how I feel.
Right. And once you name the dynamic, you must establish boundaries. But here is the critical distinction that most people get wrong. Boundaries are not about punishing the manipulator.
They aren't.
No. They are not a tool to force the other person to change their behavior.
Because you literally cannot force a manipulator to change.
Exactly.
The boundary is a rule for you, not them. It's an internal protocol. Like if you start yelling, I am going to leave the room, it's about protecting your own peace, regardless of what they do.
Precisely.
And speaking of protecting your peace, I want to bring up a brilliant, counterintuitive tactic from the Lemonade sources regarding how to handle a manipulator in the heat of the moment. The power of silence.
Oh, this is a powerful one.
Why is it that simply asking a manipulator for the truth and then remaining completely uncomfortably silent is so incredibly effective? Because doing nothing almost seems like giving up.
It is the exact opposite of giving up. It is taking total control.
How so?
Manipulators operate by controlling the narrative. They thrive on your emotional reaction. When you employ silence, you create a conversational vacuum.
And they hate that.
Manipulators absolutely hate a vacuum because it forces them to sit alone with the glaring reality of their own behavior.
Ah, I see.
In their utter desperation to fill that uncomfortable void and regain control of the narrative, they will often over-explain, backtrack, stumble over their own lies, or inadvertently reveal their true intentions.
No.
By staying perfectly calm and utterly silent during their disrespect, you neutralize their power. You refuse to read the script they wrote for you.
You just let them spin their tires in the mud until they run out of gas. And I think this all anchors back to the ultimate profound takeaway from the CUNY study. True relationship education, like true lasting immunity to this kind of psychological warfare, isn't just memorizing a checklist of red flags to spot in other people.
No, it's not.
It's doing the hard work of understanding your own internal vulnerabilities. If you know that you have an anxious attachment style, or you recognize that your epigenetic family history primed you to seek out validation from emotionally unavailable people, you can catch yourself in the act.
Awareness is everything.
You learn to stop confusing the cortisol chaos of a trauma bond for the chemistry of true love.
And when you finally understand the architecture of your own shadow mind, the manipulator finds they have absolutely nothing left to exploit.
We've covered some incredible ground today. We've explored the intricate web of manipulation, starting from the subtle, everyday shifting of goalposts at family holidays to the devastating slot machine addiction of toxic romance, all the way to the fast life evolutionary advantages of psychopathy and the ghost codes living in our DNA.
It is heavy, complex material, but pulling back the curtain on these invisible forces is really the only way to forge genuine resilience. Knowledge truly is the armor.
I want to leave you with a final provocative thought, drawing one last time from the Lemonade community discussions. They explore various philosophical theories of death.
Oh, the second death concept.
Yeah. There is a deeply poetic concept called the second death. The idea that you die once, physically when your heart stops beating, but you die a second final time when the universe completely forgets your existence. When your name is spoken by the living for the absolute last time.
The heavy thought.
It is. But if we consider the hard science of epigenetics we discussed today, the fact that the severe chronic trauma caused by a manipulator can physically, chemically mark the DNA of their victims, and that those ghost codes can be passed down to alter the nervous systems of future generations, it begs a truly chilling question. Does a true manipulator ever actually experience that second death? Or do the dark echoes of their control live on infinitely, written silently into the very survival instincts of descendants they will never even meet?
That is a haunting perspective.
Something to think about the next time you consider letting a toxic behavior slide. Until next time, protect your peace and don't let anyone convince you the microwave is your fault. Stay curious.